This is what we covered in Unit 10, Disciplinary Actions. License status must be disclosed in the contract. Disclosures must always be made by the brokerage whom the licensee represents. One acting as a dual or designated agent must receive in writing the consent of all clients to a transaction at the earliest possible time. Reason for disciplinary action: not responding to a board inquiry within 21 days, failing to produce for the board documentation regarding a real estate transaction, failing to safeguard the publics in one's work as a real estate licensee, as a broker or salesperson in Virginia holding more than one license. A written statement by anyone with a complaint against a licensee for the alleged violation of any real estate regulations may be filed with the Virginia Real Estate Board. If a consent order is not done, then the case goes on to a formal hearing. Board decisions are subject to an appeal. Disciplinary action may be taken against the licensee without a review or hearing. If he doesn't pay the assessment to the Transaction Recovery Fund, his license will be suspended automatically. If a payment has to be made from the Transaction Recovery Fund, his license will be revoked automatically. If a broker has full knowledge of wrongdoings, the board has the power to fine any licensee and to suspend or revoke any license issued under the provisions of the regulations. Actions constituting improper delivery of instruments include failing to make prompt delivery copies of any written disclosures, failing to provide in a timely manner written notice of any material changes to the transaction, failing to deliver to the seller and buyer a complete and accurate statement of receipts and disbursements of monies, refusing to surrender to the rightful owner any document which the licensee possesses. Virginia Residential Property Disclosure Act mandates that a residential property owner either provide a residential property disclosure statement or to provide a disclaimer in a form mandated by the Real Estate Board. The owner is not required to provide any independent inspection of the property. Should the disclosure information change, the owner is required to provide this information to the buyer before closing. The following items are not required to be disclosed. If the property was the site of an accident which did not affect the physical structure or environment, if a homicide, suicide, or felony occurred on the site, if an occupant was affected with HIV. The following transactions are exemptions to the disclosure regulations: court-ordered transfers in order to settle an estate, handle a foreclosure, process a writ of execution, or handle eminent domain. Voluntary transfers between relatives, co-owners of the property, as the result of a divorce settlement or for new homes. The owner will not be held liable for incorrect information supplied to him by a reliable third party. Consumer Real Estate Protection Act mandates that a specific disclosure be given in bold-faced type regarding the choice of settlement agent and the unauthorized practice of law. This applies to transactions involving the purchase of or lending on the security of real estate located in Virginia, those containing a maximum of 4 residential units. Megan's Law makes information about released sex offenders and violent sex offenders available to the public. Lead-based paint disclosure is necessary for any residential structures built prior to 1978. The seller must provide disclosure of any known lead in the dwelling, HUD pamphlet, risk assessment opportunity, which gives right to rescind contract for 10 days. Lead-based paint inspections are done at the buyer's expense. Cases in which the HUD and EPA disclosure rules do not apply: target housing foreclosure sales, lease transactions with lead-based paint-free target housing, lease renewals in which the tenant has already received the pertinent information, the sale or lease of a 0-bedroom property. Those who intentionally violate these regulations can be liable to the purchaser or lessee for an amount equal to 3 times the amount of damage incurred.